America owes trillions of dollars. Every year, the number gets bigger. Politicians argue about it. News channels warn about it. Economists debate it. And many people believe one thing, that one day the country could simply run out of money. But here's the strange part. The United States has been in debt for most of its history. The debt keeps growing, yet the economy keeps functioning. People keep getting paid. Businesses keep operating. And life goes on. So what is national debt really? Is it a ticking time bomb, a giant scam, or something completely misunderstood? Because the truth about national debt is far more surprising than most people realize. And once you understand it, you'll never look at government spending the same way again. Imagine your family had trillions in debt. Let's start with a simple example. Imagine your family earns $100,000 a year, but every year you spend $120,000. You're spending more than you earn. To cover the difference, you borrow money. At first, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but after years of borrowing, the debt grows. Most people assume countries work exactly the same way, and on the surface, they do. Governments collect taxes. Governments spend money. When spending exceeds tax revenue, they borrow. That borrowing becomes national debt. Simple enough. But this is where things become very different from your household budget. Because countries can do things families can't. And that's where most people get confused. Where does the debt come from? Every government spends money. Roads, schools, defense, healthcare, infrastructure, public services. When tax revenue isn't enough, governments borrow. But who lends them money? The answer is surprisingly simple. Investors, banks, pension funds, foreign governments, and even ordinary citizens. The government issues bonds. Think of a bond as an IOU. You lend money today. The government promises to pay you back later with interest. That's how debt is created. Millions of investors buying government bonds, year after year, decade after decade. The number that scares everyone. Now let's talk about the giant number, the one that appears in headlines, the one that sounds terrifying. Trillions of dollars. It's so large that most people can't even visualize it. 1,000,000 seconds is about 11 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds is about 31 years. 1,000,000,000,000 seconds is over 31,000 years. That's how enormous these numbers are. And seeing those figures naturally creates fear. But here's a question almost nobody asks. Is the size of the debt the most important thing? Or is there something else we should be looking at? Because debt alone doesn't tell the whole story. The part nobody talks about. Imagine two people. One owes $50,000. The other owes $500,000. Who is in worse shape? Most people would say the second person. But what if the first person earns $20,000 a year and the second person earns $5 million? Suddenly, the picture changes. Debt only makes sense when compared to income. The same is true for countries. Economists often compare debt to GDP. GDP is the total value of everything an economy produces. In simple terms, it's the country's income. A large economy can usually support more debt than a small one. This is why economists spend so much time looking at debt relative to economic output, not just the raw number. Can a country go bankrupt? This is where things get interesting. Can a country actually run out of money? The answer depends on the country. Some countries borrow in foreign currencies. That creates risk. If they can't repay lenders, they can default. History is full of examples. But countries that borrow in their own currency have more flexibility. They can refinance debt, issue new bonds, adjust monetary policy. That doesn't mean debt doesn't matter. It does. But the situation is more complicated than many headlines suggest. The real danger often isn't the debt itself, it's losing confidence. Because modern financial systems run on trust. The real cost of too much debt. Now let's discuss the actual risks. High debt isn't automatically a disaster, but it creates challenges. Governments must pay interest. As debt grows, interest payments grow too. Imagine carrying a giant credit card balance. Eventually, a larger portion of your income goes toward interest. The same principle applies to governments. Money spent on interest can't be spent elsewhere. Not on infrastructure, not on education, not on other priorities. Over time, this can limit flexibility. And that's why economists pay attention to debt levels. Not because debt immediately destroys economies, but because it can slowly reduce options. Why governments keep borrowing? If debt can create problems, why do governments keep doing it? Because borrowing can also create benefits. Imagine a government builds highways, ports, power systems, technology infrastructure. These investments can increase future economic growth. In that case, borrowing may help create a stronger economy. The challenge is deciding when debt is productive and when it becomes excessive. That's the debate economists have been having for decades, and there are no easy answers. The truth about national debt isn't that it's harmless, and it isn't that disaster is guaranteed. The truth is more complicated. Debt can help economies grow. Debt can fund important investments, but debt can also create long-term risks. The real question isn't, does a country have debt? Almost every country does. The real question is, can that country manage its debt responsibly while continuing to grow? Because in the end, national debt isn't really about numbers on a screen. It's about trust. Trust in governments, trust in economies, and trust in the future. And as long as that trust exists, the system keeps moving forward. But if that trust ever breaks, everything changes.